gonna be cool.
The topics and opinions expressed on the Dudes and Beer podcast are intended for an audience of 18 and up and are solely those of the host and guests. They neither reflect the opinions or values of either the sponsors of Dudes and Beer or your mother. I mean, seriously, have you ever heard these guys? They'll talk about anything.
Whoa, hey, you think they're gonna show it? They'll probably just blur it out. Whoa, check it out, Beavis.
Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 89 of Dudes and Beer, coming to you live from San Antonio, Texas today. I am actually on the road for work, and here at the fantastic Hyatt Hill Country in San Antonio for an event, and thought that we would Skype in. This is our first Skype session. We're actually using Skype as our main thoroughfare, and we will be having our good friend, investigative reporter, and as well as the head of Daily News Collective and the Blah Blah Show, Jon Bowne, on this evening. And we're talking about all the madness going on across America right now. Everything from protests across the country, across the world, to what's going on presently, the new things that are being passed by our new president, what they could possibly mean, what they do mean for us, and a little bit behind them. And, you know, I guess the real question tonight is the panic necessary? Is the panic really necessary? Is it the end of life as we know it, or will it just be another 4-year term? And we will definitely get into that and so much more whenever we get back from this message from our sponsor, y'all.
Hey, are you a musician? Do you play guitar, bass, or synthesizers? Are you a studio engineer looking for that different sound? Well, fret no longer. Austin Hot Mods is there for you. From Boss to Ibanez, DoD to EHX and more, Austin Hot Mods provides over 50 different modifications and customizations to some of the most popular guitar pedals on the market, from vintage to modern. So if you're looking for that boutique custom sound on a Craigslist budget, look no further. Contact Austin Hot Mods today and mention that you heard it here on the Dudes and Beer podcast for 5% off your first guitar pedal modification. Visit them online at austinhotmods.com. Texas owned and operated and home of the Mod of the Month deal. That website again is austinhotmods.com.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and joining us via Skype is our good friend Jon Bowne. How you doing tonight, Johnny?
Very good. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming and being a first part of this. We did a test earlier, and man, the quality is just
to be
fantastic.
There.
Well,
Since
yeah, exactly.
Here, let me rephrase that. Good,
good. You're technically in my hotel room right now, creepily. Creeping where I sleep, so to speak.
San Antonio, beautiful place.
It is, you know, so as I've been here in this beautiful place, it seems to me, John, like there is a lot of ugliness going on in the world right now. And, you know, you and I are both musicians. We're hippies at heart, but practicalists in the realist sense of the word. You know, we understand that half of that just doesn't work out. You know, it just doesn't work out the way it should. Hey, we'd all love to be communist in the way that Jesus wanted us to. However, the inherent corruption of mankind kind of ceases that. So tonight we're talking a little bit about the protests and things like that have been going on, John. And before we get into our audio clip that we have, let's just get a quick, you know, vibe feel here. Like where do you stand with all of this right now? Let's just put it out there at the very beginning. Where do we both stand with what's going on as far as the protests, and where do we both stand right now as far as our current president. Go ahead.
Well, I think right now the country's in a kind of a state of shock where in the past, during Obama's presidency, Obama would do something and, whether you're on the left or the right or in the middle, it really didn't affect you that much because he was dividing us little by little. And once he stepped out of office, then that brought in the Don. And you're either with Donald Trump or, as Bush said, George W. Bush said, you're either with the terrorists or you're you're
either with us or you're with the terrorists.
Or you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And that was my best W impression. I forgot everything I was about to say. So that's the best way to do a W impression,
Sure.
So my stance right now is, having dug into the millennial generation for the past few years, having spoken with them, doing various reports, speaking to them on the street, whether it's about the Bill of Rights or it's about the nomination of Donald Trump, they are clearly it's a zombie mode mindset, cognitive dissonance, a gray matter source problem in their brain, where you had mentioned that we're old hippies, and of course we're like third generation hippies, but
second. Our parents were really the first generation,
Okay, well, yeah. All right. Well, I always thought Kerouac was the first generation, and then the. That's all right. It's not. It's
and that would have been our parents' time. That would have been right up around the late 40s, early 50s. Right up around there. The kids that came about from that were the ones that were.
There's the silent generation that happens before the baby boomer generation, Generation X. And Jimi Hendrix was actually a part of the silent generation.
Yeah.
So was Jack Kerouac. But anyway.
Yeah.
Tomato. But the point that I gather from that is that regardless if I disagree with you, I still want to hear what you have to say.
Exactly.
And you're interested in what I have to say because I might have something that might educate you and vice versa.
Well, one hopes that we're interested in what each other has to say. That's what's called a dialogue and conversation.
Fool me once, won't get fooled again.
That's right.
So when you actually approach millennials, when you go down to a campus as a reporter and you've got a camera with you and a mic and you're trying to ask people, it's like approaching a petting zoo. Where they're all just their faces are in the feed, because they're all staring at their phones and they're walking across the road staring at their phones, and so the way that they process information as human beings has changed. And I heard a history teacher today on talk radio. He was complaining about how this generation has been told to put their phones down during class.
Yeah.
So they have to put their phones down and they can't use them. But rather than sit there and listen to him, what they would consider ramble on about European history, which I would find fascinating, but they're all staring at the ceiling and he can't get through to any of them.
Yeah.
He went even further and he said he's concerned about the divide that's coming in this next generation, in the fact that it's not, baby boomers, silent generation, Generation X especially, had a big problem with authority, but he addressed that authority with our issues. We had solid, whether it was music, literature, comedy, on and on and on, whatever it was, this is the reason we have a problem with you. Mm-hmm. Well, this generation, they can't even process why they have a problem with authority. and they don't even know what the real authority is. They don't realize that Donald Trump saved our butts. Now, and it's okay. I'm not going out there. I'm not saying Donald Trump is God or something.
No,
but all I'm saying is if Hillary Clinton had been elected, we would be. And I'm not just throwing this out there. I mean, if you do the research, we would be facing a complete fascist police state. We were fortunate that she ran because she couldn't get elected because she was such a hardcore criminal and didn't realize that the alternative media was going to uncover all that. Plus, and everything that WikiLeaks did. So now we have Donald Trump, and he's trying his best to do exactly what all of us who were paying attention to the scope of the New World Order and the globalist model that was just coming for all of us. And he's doing everything he can to spend this 4 years. I mean, he's hit the ground running, man. This past week was amazing. And, now we've got a new Supreme Court justice nominated. But all right,
who was the nomination? I had to run out and grab barbecue, so I had something in my stomach for beer. Who was the nomination?
It is. Let me look at it because I can't say his name correctly. Okay. But I am going to wrap all this up. I've got
sure. Oh no, you'll coalesce it.
It's Neil Gorish, who's from Colorado, and the important thing is that he has a great pedigree. He went to Columbia, Harvard, and Oxford. But the main thing, he's written a lot on euthanasia. But the main thing is he's going to replace Scalia, and by replacing Scalia, we needed somebody that knew the Constitution, was an originalist, like Scalia was, and so he's an originalist and was actually good friends with Scalia. So a textualist and an originalist. So we got another Scalia, but let me finish my rambling here. So where I'm coming from is that when I see these social justice warriors, when I'm out there in the middle of a protest and they won't talk to me, they say that they have the right not to talk to me, then why the hell are you here?
Yeah.
Why and like I said, we were talking earlier, I can't tell if these people are paid or not, and it really doesn't matter at this point because they're all like this. Now, the paid protesters, they're just thinking about what that $17 an hour they're getting from a Soros paycheck, so they're not going to talk to you. But the unpaid protesters are just as bad, whether they're SJWs or they're the Communist Party. They won't talk because they have nothing to say. And so what it is complete sedition and subversion of the U.S. Constitution. And I want to read you this quote from Dwight Eisenhower that he said in Time Magazine on October 13th, 1952. He said, "The Bill of Rights contains no grant of privilege for a group of people to destroy the Bill of Rights. A group dedicated to the ultimate destruction of all civil liberties cannot be allowed to claim civil liberties as its privileged sanctuary from which to carry on subversion of the government." Now, the SJWs and the protesters, they would say, well, we're only using our freedom of speech. We want people to know that we disagree with Donald Trump. We think he's a fascist. We think he's a Nazi, even though they're completely wrong about all that. Where this Eisenhower quote really applies is when you realize, and this is a touchy subject because I want to first say that I'm not Islamophobic. I do understand that American Muslims and a lot of Muslims that are leaving the Middle East, especially in places like Damascus, the very educated people, Istanbul, parts of Iraq, that these people are educated and they aren't Sharia law loving Muslims. But in the Middle East, the IOC, along with 57
What is
countries,
the IOC? Explain that to everybody, just real quick.
Oh, yeah. All right.
We're familiar with all the acronyms, but not everybody is.
To explain that the UN had a universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Yes.
Basically saying that you don't, no slavery,
Sure.
no death penalties for unwarranted reasons, so on and so forth.
So what does IOC stand for?
The OIC.
Yes.
The Organization of Islamic Cooperation. And they passed in 1990 the Cairo Declaration on Human Rights in Islam.
Yeah.
And it affirms Sharia law as the supreme law.
Yeah.
So you have these 57 Islamic countries where these people are coming from with the OIC over them. And I think the IOC is something else. The OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, over them. And they believe that the death penalty is right for those leaving Islam, that punishing women who are victims of rape is good. Polygamy is good. Wife beating is okay. Censoring any speech insulting Islam. And that's just the beginning of Sharia law. I mean, it gets more and more bizarre. And in itself, Sharia law, the more you look at it, it is a militarized, politicized ideology rather than just a religion.
Well,
so
it's an extreme form of a religion.
And the intent of Sharia law moving into, as it is, into Western Europe, into England, Sweden. Sweden's become the rape capital of the West, into Italy, into Germany, and all over Europe, basically. Yeah. But there are no-go zones in parts of Europe where if you go in there, there's a good chance you might get killed or at least beaten. And that's not how it was 20, 30 years ago. Well, they're peaceful Muslims. And now with this refugee swarm,
I was going to say let's start bringing it back.
Yeah, Sharia law is being practiced. Yeah. So again, I think and I compare this. It's hard to bring up Sharia law and good Muslims without sounding like an Islamophobe, but I compare it to this. When I went to the border to research drug trafficking, human trafficking, what was going on the border, I quickly, and I expected to run into angry Mexicans down there. I didn't expect to be welcomed with open arms and warm feeling, but I went down there in the valley and everybody was very nice. And then I found out almost immediately that it was the Mexican Americans that were the most concerned about illegals crossing the border. So it's a schism within Islam. It's a schism within the Mexicans and the Mexican American people that is silent to the mainstream media. People don't focus on that. They use a group against itself.
Yeah.
In reality, there's a conflict. And so that's why, and then I'll shut up, but that's why Ike's quote is so important, because we're protecting possible terror. We're protecting.
Well, basically, what Ike's quote said is that people who are trying to subvert the law cannot use the law to protect themselves in order to subvert the law.
Right.
You can, and a prime example, and let me ring in here because we haven't even gotten to what I think about the whole present situation, and not to be greedy, But let's get both sides here before we really start digging into a lot of meat. And for me, I have never in my voting career, and I'm 41, never in any vote for a president have I ever voted red or blue, ever. I do not buy into the two-party system, so we can start there. I would have gladly voted for Bernie had he kept the I behind his name and nutted up and stayed an independent and stayed true to his independent principles.
He might have won.
Most definitely. Because whoever, and what you have to consider is that the tactics that were used by HRC's campaign are the same tactics that the Clinton War Room used, against opponents of Clinton whenever he ran, stuff like that. And it was called the War Room. Like, their job was to go to war against people who said bad things against them. And that was stated. Like, that's what they did. They went after you. If you were trying to say something bad about Bill, they came after you, buddy, and they found everything on you, and they put it out there. And they did the same thing with Hillary, and that would have happened to anybody running against her. The problem with Bernie going in was the fact of now you've given nobody an incredibly viable option, And I'll say it out loud. I voted for Gary Johnson, and I knew that he would not make it. But it's also
what's Aleppo?
I don't care. You know whose job it is to know about Aleppo? Not the president's. Read his 8 jobs. There are 8 jobs in the Constitution that are the president's, and none of them involve knowing about fucking Aleppo. All right? Not a single one of them. Not without the permission of Congress.
Well, I didn't mean to cut.
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's just where I stand on it. The president is very limited. He's really a figurehead. His job is to meet and greet people and occasionally make a treaty whenever Congress says you're allowed to make a treaty. Whenever you're allowed to start something, and then we'll finish it off. We'll write the law, But you ain't allowed to be out there wheeling and dealing. You're not allowed to do that stuff. It's unconstitutional. It's totally against everything that you swore to defend. And that's why it's not allowed.
Hillary Clinton was a god.
Well,
just
like I said,
institution of corruption.
Anybody that she went against her in the race, the DNC would have done the same thing. It all would have played out the same way. The only difference is at that point it would have been between Bernie and Trump, and Bernie would have blown him out of the water. Straight up. He would. Even on electoral vote, and that's what I want to get into is the fact that I am, when it comes down to it, I do not see, and I think the same thing about the Bible. I'm not going to say that it's the divine word of God, but it's definitely not a living, breathing document. It's not. It's a set of instructions by which to lead life, and here are the instructions. It's not a living, breathing thing.
It is the law of the land.
What's that?
It is the law of the land.
It is the law of the land.
Can I just summarize what I was saying earlier?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I just ranted and I didn't want anyone to be confused.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that there are communists, there are Sharia compliant groups, there are neo-Nazis, there are many groups out there that are protesting that are anti-Constitution.
Oh, absolutely.
And so by bringing up Ike's quote, all I'm saying is that in order to focus in on what's happening right now, it needs to be put up against that barometer of are you using the Bill of Rights to subvert our Bill of Rights?
Exactly, exactly. Are you hiding behind the law in order to break the law? And the prime example of that
is sedition.
Well, and here's my thing. Number one, there is a legal process by which a president is elected, and there are two votes that are there. There is the popular vote and the electoral college vote, and it is written in by law that the electoral college vote is what is used. And only 3 times in the history of elections in the United States, amongst 45 presidents now, only 3 times has a president been selected, not elected. 2 of those happen to be within our lifetime. All right? That's just a roll of the dice. But if you want to fix it, go. Why are you out anywhere right now except I want to know why House of Representatives people are out protesting somewhere else. Get in the freaking House of Representatives and do your job. You are in session. Go, go do your job.
They talk about shock.
Yeah, and that's
they appear to be in shock. And the interesting thing, and I'll be reporting on this new Supreme Court judge, is really it's not his pick, although he made a really good pick. The other pick was a favorite of his sister's, but very controversial.
Yeah, well, and you can't be doing that. You can't be doing that.
Well, his sister, Trump's sister, is a judge.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I know. No, but he picked the right one. He picked the favorite. But what's going to be interesting is how the Democrats react, because their pick, Obama's pick, got the cold shoulder. So it's going to be interesting in the next 24 or 48 hours.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Basically, I'm someone who believes the fact that the Constitution is a contract, straight up. It is a social contract. That's why there are signatures at the bottom, and that's why there are clauses inside of it as to how to change the contract.
Yeah.
Just like any contract, it has amendments. It has things that have been changed and initialed and dated.
Yep.
Stuff like that. And is it allowed to be changed? Yes, and it's through extreme unction that it's changed. You know?
There was a time when you couldn't when you couldn't have dudes and beer.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That had to change.
I would venture a guess that within the next 8 years, it may be a dangerous time to have something like dudes and beer. Like I've said before, we've already had a few episodes that are banned on Google because of the topics that we talked about. Like for a while there, we were getting a lot of listens in Iraq. Like, it was wild, dude. It's crazy to go and look at our Google stats and, see where our audience is. Like, we had a good Russian audience for a long time.
Well, we'll probably get some listeners on this one tonight.
Right now, 90% of our audience is from America, and that's quite honestly the first time that has ever happened.
Yeah.
Where it's consistent, where it's been for a few weeks now, that 90% of our audience is America. And, I love
that's what happened with me initially with Daily News Collective. It was in Australia. It was in England, Colombia.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. You travel the world before you hit your home market.
Yeah, right. And the home market was way underneath all of those, and now it's back to just America.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and, going back, just to turn the clock back by a minute or so, we were talking about people using the law to subvert the law, people using the laws to protect themselves in order to subvert it. And, I don't know. I firmly believe in the concept of, just like President Obama said in his reaction to everything, the statement that was released while he's on vacation, much deserved vacation. He was the president next to the Pope. He's got a pretty busy schedule. But I firmly believe in people's right to enact their constitutional rights to peaceably assemble and protest the law, things like that.
Absolutely.
The question is, are you doing it in the right places? Is building a human chain across a road that's a common road a proper means of communication to people?
Does a little girl, and this happened, have to watch her father die because lives matter in the back of an ambulance?
Yeah, and literally that happened, folks. Like, there was a man who was having heart issues, was being rushed, and the crowd of protesters would not move aside to let the ambulance go through the road, and the man died.
You made that the point that how did they know that these people in the cars that they're blocking traffic aren't all, maybe if it's Black Lives Matter, maybe they're all black and they're all going to work? How do they know?
Hey, and here's the thing.
Don't Black Lives Matter? Don't their lives matter going to work?
I don't care who it is. I really don't. You are interrupting interstate commerce at that point. That is not peaceably assembling. That is
it's
straight
disrespectful on a.
Well,
on
it's
a,
disrespectful.
Innocent when you prey on innocent people.
Yeah.
To get your point across.
Yeah.
That's not protest.
Yeah. Well, and when you pick on people for exercising their rights how they see fit, unfortunately, your right to peaceably assemble does not necessarily mean that you have the right to block roads that lead to commerce, roads that lead to people's homes, anything like that. It does not mean, like I've got an issue with my neighbor where he's like, oh, well, I've lived here 16 years and never had anybody that complained. And I'm like, well, I just signed a 2-year lease, and guess what? Your music's too loud. I'm sorry.
You live next to Bob Dylan?
I'm sorry if you haven't had a problem with neighbors the last 16 years. I can actively hear your music through 3 walls of my house in my living room.
Yeah.
If you could turn it down, that would be great.
And it's disrespectful.
It really comes down to conflict resolution, and that brings us to our soundbite for the evening, folks.
Let me add before the soundbite. Let me add that also when they form these human chains, and there's plenty of videos out there. Maybe most of the people out there listening know this, but they tend to get hit by cars. I mean, that's just how stupid this is. They're out there in the middle of the street at night on a highway with no lights on them. And there's plenty of YouTube videos, and think about all the times it wasn't filmed of them getting hit by cars. I mean, that's just how is that productive?
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying, and that's what brings us to our sound clip is right there. The question of how is that productive? How is that not counterproductive to the point that you're trying to make, people? The sound clip tonight comes, and it's been viral. It's been all over the place, folks. It's been all over the internet. But it comes from University of Washington. There was a group of protesting students that took over the library, probably about 15 or 20 of them. They had megaphones. They were chanting all kinds of stuff. And this very demure in character Asian student comes up and just makes the most beautifully poignant point that I think is what John and I are trying to get to the root of this evening and really, really kind of root out as to what's going on. So let's check this out, John. You ready for it?
Yeah.
I love this clip, man. I've listened to this like 35 times today. Here we go, folks. From the University of Washington, the man of the day. Shh.
Who's got the power? We've got power. So what kind of power? People power. Who's got the power? We got the power. And what kind of power? People power. Who's got the power? We got power.
Hey.
What kind of power?
Hey.
People power.
Hey, this is library.
and he like the man's got a point. Like, hey,
it's
this is
straight out of a movie.
Oh yeah, no, it's great.
It's as if that was a scene from Comedy Central,
Yeah, exactly. I
this
almost want to
library.
find out if it was staged or faked. Like literally, this guy just comes out and makes the most common sense point in the world. Like,
and
hey,
you could hear a
this
pin
is
drop.
a library.
You could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
It's like it never crossed their minds, their cognitive dissonant minds.
Well, and that's just
they're in a library.
Protesting
in a library.
To get psychological on y'all folks, to explain to you what cognitive dissonance is in a very short term. If you ever see a Stinson maneuver by the police, where they come up and they turn the car on a pivot. The reason they do that is because the torque on the wheels itself actually causes the engine to seize up most of the time. It causes the torque converter to go backwards, and it just locks up the differential, and the car automatically cuts off, and it normally stops the suspect. It's not that they're trying to wreck the car or hurt somebody. It's literally the safest way to stop a speeding vehicle. And your brain kind of does the same thing, see? Here we are thinking, going 95 miles an hour in our normal train of thought.
Right.
And here comes this new concept that hits us in just the right spot at just the right moment, that our brains literally cannot keep up with that, and not just can't keep up with it, but can't conceive it to possibly be true, because this
give
is
an
what...
example.
Go ahead.
So they're shouting, "No KKK, no fascist USA. No KKK, no fascist USA." And then you walk up and you say, "Hillary Clinton was a part of the Klan." And then of course, they don't believe you. And then you say, "Robert Byrd was her mentor. He was a Grand Cyclops of the Klan." Now there's more information, and now they're trying to process that, and it's seizing up. Everything's seizing up.
Well, and
so
typically what happens...
Instead of saying, "Really? Now can you show me some evidence on that? Can you show me? Can you tell me more about this Robert Byrd character and his connection to Hillary Clinton?" Well, yes, I can. They had a memorial for him when he died, and he was a hardcore Klan member. He was a Klan leader, and she said that he was. Here's the audio of her saying that was her mentor.
Yeah, exactly. And, it is the idea of, and it goes a step further, though, because it literally causes the person to irrationally defend their point, even though they have been shown to be wrong.
Right.
Even though you come across it a lot in religion, things like that, where people's worlds are literally shattered because what they thought is not.
And what's really bizarre is
you find it a lot with love, relationships, things like that, in very emotional states.
Right, and that's where the amygdala comes in, because they can't process. But and then what's really bizarre is when you're out there face to face with these people, a lot of them are, and I'm not trying to poke fun at anybody, but a lot of them are kind of wimpy people, and they get. And
don't sound like bullies now, John. Let's don't sound like bullies.
What I mean is that where they're about to go with it, because they get extremely violent, they get really scary.
Oh yeah.
And so what I mean by that, by wimpy, is that you're being attacked by people that wouldn't normally be violent. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that I didn't mean to say wimpy, but what they've reduced, they're not thugs.
Yeah, no, they're not people that would typically get in a fight. They're not, but they will get into a fight over this to defend it so vehemently.
And so they feel like now they're a part of this revolution of nonsense.
Yeah,
and that they're in the right, and they've, in their minds, as this collective Borg, they all see Donald Trump as Hitler, and so they all agree on that, and all they have to do is agree on a few things that continue to let their engine run in their brains and allow their amygdala to process their emotions.
Yeah.
And so they act as this giant group of cognitive dissonance sufferers.
Yeah. Well, and people who are
whatever idea is easily and readily available, rather than actually having a decent debate with somebody. And if I'm proven wrong about something, let's say Robert Byrd, if all of that was false,
sure,
and somebody had evidence that it was false, I'm happy to hear that. I'm glad to hear that I'm wrong.
I'd love to hear that you were wrong about that.
I had there's a rumor that Hunter S. Thompson was involved in snuff films. Okay?
You know what, Jon Bowne? Tell you what. When you're proved wrong about that fact, about Jon Byrd, we'll do an episode just about how and why you were proved wrong.
I'm just giving you an example. I'm a huge fan of Hunter S. Thompson.
Go try to prove him wrong, folks. so that we can have that episode.
I'm a Kentuckian, and he's, like Muhammad Ali, Hunter S. Thompson's a hero of mine, and, Kentuckians. So, and he's one of the greatest minds of our time. But I had heard this rumor, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, he was in snuff. He did snuff films. He filmed snuff films." So I actually did the research and found the guy that he was supposedly involved with. Gets into a whole broader topic, but
no, I've heard the rumor.
Main thing is that the guy describes the guy that filmed him as a fat, short, bald, Italian-looking guy.
Shit,
Okay,
man, he made snuff films with Danny DeVito?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Danny DeVito.
Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen. Hunter S. Thompson made snuff films with Danny DeVito.
Okay.
That is the title of this episode now.
But yeah, I mean, I was trying to prove that wrong, but I'm just saying if I was saying that, I would hope somebody would prove me wrong. Well, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And let's get back to the topic. Is
absolutely
they've proven wrong, and that's the first part of being in having an open mind, being in a debate, and being an intellectual human being is you're going to learn more. Like earlier, I said OIC, right?
Yeah.
And instead of IOC.
Yeah. Actually, you said IOC instead of OIC.
See, there you go. I tricked you. But I'm happy to.
I'm not mad at you for tricking me. See, I'm not angry at you for tricking me. I'm not going to come out. I'm not going to come out and block your front driveway tomorrow for tricking me, John. And that's that to me, that's what gets me. That's kind of, I guess, as Shakespeare would say, the rub to me is the fact that people are using the law to hide behind in order to put these acts out there and do this stuff. And I'm not going to say that you don't have a right to voice your opinion. I'm not going to say that you don't have a right and a means by which to do it. There is a means by which to do it, but
it'd be great though
for you to infringe upon the rights of other people, for you to block public roadways, things like that without a permit, are not legal.
To get involved with these protests and have an anti-protest, but not be neo-Nazi or, white people matter too or whatever. Just the protest is based on you have no opinion, you have no facts.
Yeah.
I mean, a group of people there saying you have no idea what you're talking about with signs saying,
I mean,
not.
It cracks me up. I mean, literally, this is the cognitive dissonance going on right now. Here's a prime example, folks, okay? And it's not just a prime example of cognitive dissonance of what's going on, but a perfect example of an oxymoron, okay? Here you have marches that took place all over because of Trump and his statement 10 years ago that he says was taken out of context, saying, I'm so popular, when you're famous, you could do anything. I could probably grab him by the pussy and they'd let me get away with it. And he says, taken out of context. Everybody says, no, that's exactly what you meant. Granted, 10 years ago, who's to say the man hadn't changed, even if that was the case? To say otherwise means, number one, you don't believe in the concept of rehabilitation or the fact that people can change. So there goes the whole justice system. There goes the whole jail and rehabilitation system that we know in America. Right there, you have no faith in that. And on top of that, you've got marches going on opposing that, where the spokespeople like Madonna get up and say, I've thought a lot recently about blowing up the White House and the people in it.
Yeah.
And literally make what is known to the Secret Service as a public threat against the president, which now has to be investigated. Right. And when they get in trouble for it, they go, oh, no, you took that out of context.
Total irony.
Like, Yeah, like that's
At-
irony,
at a
not
protest-
oxymoronic, but yeah, irony would
protest based on something that was taken out of context.
be. Yeah,
She actually threatens to kill our
and
leader.
I'm not saying if it was or wasn't taken out of context. I'm
Taken
not
out of
saying
context.
that. I'm not saying that Madonna's statement was or wasn't taken out of context. But what I am saying is, Dudes and Fucking Beer has a damn disclaimer that we make people sign
Yeah.
that says, "Listen, I will not be held responsible for what you say. If you think that what you're going to say on this show will get you in trouble with your boss, get you in trouble with your kid's teacher at school, make your grandmama cry if she hears
Yeah.
it, something like that, be a grown fucking person and don't say it."
Which reminds me, have you seen the video of the preschool teacher, Black Lives Matter preschool teacher
No,
that came out a few days ago?
no, I don't tend to watch a lot of the, I guess I would say, inflammatory stuff like that.
Well,
know.
she says an F-bomb every other word. She claims she's a preschool
that's
teacher.
great.
Then she goes on to say that teach your kids to throw police cars into the garbage.
Yeah.
And then she says that we need to start killing
Nice.
people. And then she says
Oh,
we
you
need
know what? I heard
we need
about
to
that.
kill the White House.
I heard about that.
And she's wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt, and it's
Now,
just like,
There was
how is that? How does any of the, if Martin Luther King was alive today, he would be kicking their ass.
yeah,
you know?
he'd be pissed.
I mean, he'd be pissed.
He'd be
I think
pissed,
even-
and I would verge on the fact of saying that Malcolm X would be pissed.
I was about to say that. I mean, Malcolm X said some pretty inflammatory things, but he was just trying.
He did.
But he was trying to just show how screwed up the system is.
But even he would say that there is a means by which the revolution takes place, and this is not it.
Yeah, I mean,
This is detrimental to the
on a
cause.
side, man, I was looking at my lineage today. I was looking at upstate New York, where some of my family's from.
Sure.
And this whole area of white folks up there, Irish, Scottish.
Yeah. There are a few white folks in upstate New York, from what I understand.
Yeah, especially in the Finger Lakes area.
Yeah.
But that's abolitionist country. Our
Sure is.
ancestors risked their lives to end slavery. That's where the Underground Railroad are part of it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, people want to point, some idiot, 17-year-old idiot wants to point their finger at that white guy and say that, he just because he's white, he's racist. And you have no idea that, down his DNA, down the line somewhere, he fought for probably your ancestors, put his life in danger. I mean, that's because we're all Americans.
The key, and that's just it. That's what people need to understand.
We're here together.
Is
Yeah.
that there should be no finger pointing at anybody. At anybody. Because the pendulum swings to the extreme on both ends.
It must just suck to live in that kind of fear.
Well, and that's just it. That's what the upcoming episode on Friday of Thinking Deeply with Dudes and Beer is about. Is about living a life filled with fear. Like, I don't understand the concept. I don't get it. I don't understand living, even working for who I worked for and doing what I did and doing the type of media that I did and stuff like that. I don't grasp the concept of living in fear.
Right.
At one point I did. And I was, because like we were saying earlier with cognitive dissonance, with the amygdala, there are three actions. The amygdala controls fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
One of the three. And there was a point in my life where a hard decision, a deep soul-searching decision, something like that, something that I make in a heartbeat now, would literally lead me to the point of freeze. It would lead me to the point of inaction, to the detriment of school, to the detriment of a lot of things because of fear, because of my fear of anxiety, because of my fear of, failure, all kinds of stuff, my fear of disappointment of other people. that led me to the point of freeze. And the day I realized that was the day it stopped. Because I'm not someone who freezes. I'm someone who takes action. Like, why is it that I'm freezing on this? And I really had to kind of step back for a couple years and really figure out why it is that my emotional state would freeze me there and make me not act.
Right.
You know? It took me fighting cognitive dissonance. It took me number one, realizing that it was happening, accepting that it was happening, and then moving forward with it.
That reminds me, and it's funny, you know, I generally don't remember my dreams, and I just real quick, just because
go ahead, man.
So I had this dream last night that it all began. I was with my family, and we were at some kind of vacation place, but then we moved down the road, and all of a sudden we were like in the middle of town, and we were at this political rally inside of a place. And there were banners everywhere, and it said Rothschild. And so the people there were celebrating the politics of the Rothschilds. As somebody was running, named Rothschild was running, and it was obvious to me in the dream that it was an actual real Rothschild, you know, connected to the trillionaire Rothschild family that runs the planet. And in my dream, they were shouting, and then they're in this room, and, you know, they accepted me as being there. And as soon as they got quiet, I said, Rothschild sucks, in my dream. Now, that's fight or flight.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, I've been battling the New World Order now for 6 years. Yeah. And it is a subconscious thing because I've put myself out there. People know my voice. They know my name. And, you know, when you first start doing this, you're like, should I be doing this?
Oh, hey, man, I know some people in circles that I say I know you, and they're like, oh, wow, that's badass. Like, they know who you are. Like, your name's out there. You've done some stuff, and you've done your work, and you've definitely done your
My name and my voice are out there, but my face isn't, which I've kind of done on purpose.
Sure.
One, because I love radio. And two, because I'm extremely ugly. And
I was going to say, two, you've got a great face for radio.
That's that one.
I think it's technically 1.25.
But three, because I'm not trying to be a star. Yeah. All I'm trying to do, I just want people to know that when they come to me as a source, that I'm not trying to present myself as some kind of celebrity. I actually went through that already. I had a radio show called JB's Home Cooking back in Kentucky, and I went through this process where I became this total jerk to myself. My ego got so big that I always said I would never be involved in something like that again, and just be a source of the information. Yeah. And so, you know, it's kept me very humble, and it's kept the information flowing. And so I think we veered off here from our topic.
No, that's okay. That's okay. No, we're talking about the whole zeitgeist of this concept right now, and the whole concept of cognitive dissonance. And in order to understand cognitive dissonance, we have to humanize it, which is why we're sharing our stories of cognitive dissonance here and how we broke out of it.
Yeah, well, I guess I've taken that stance from a fight or flight point of view because for me, it's all about the fight. Yeah. And it's not about the flight. To me, is dealing with things that really are superficial and don't matter.
Oh, yeah.
And based in fear. And the fight takes a lot more work. It takes a lot of work, and you've got to set things up in order for that work to be processed correctly. And,
it does. But the thing is, and you know, this is what we were talking about on air, or before we went on air. There was recently a video released. Did you get a chance to watch that? The one from the CEO?
No, I haven't watched that.
I can't remember which CEO it is offhand, but if you go and Google CEO tells millennials to buy an alarm clock, it will pop up. It's like a 10, 15-minute video. And, he's basically going through talking about how as the owner of a huge company and a dude that runs a huge company, how it's tough to deal with millennials because, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's the education system that they grew up in. It's the psychology that they were brought up with. This idea of everybody's a winner, everybody's going to get an award. You're all good, you're all special. No, you're not. Sorry. And when you hit that in the real world, cognitive dissonance occurs.
Right.
And you really don't know what to do, and you get lost as hell.
And then you got to find that fight.
Well, and that's just it. He was like, we give these millennials a 6-month review like we do any new employee, and we're like, well, what do you find wrong? What do you... And they're like, well, I don't really feel like I'm making an impact, like I'm making a difference. Because they've all been told their whole life that they need to make a difference. They need to make a difference. But they don't understand that making a difference is a long, far-reaching concept. That it's not something that is attained now, like the information on their cell phone, where they can just call it up and it's going to happen.
Right.
It's not going to happen 6 months into being at a company. That doesn't matter who you are or how long you've been doing what you do. Your long and far-reaching impact will not be seen in 6 months.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, and what's going on right now.
What number show is this?
What's that?
What number show is this?
This is 89.
Yeah, I mean that's a good example. You've kept at it.
Yeah.
You didn't do show number 1 and bam, you've got sponsors and your website's up and you're all over the map, all over the internet.
Well, the website was up on episode number 1, but that's because
syndication and
yeah, exactly.
This is something you have to work at every day.
Yeah.
And really just for the sake of doing it is why you love doing it. But eventually there's a pot at the end of that rainbow,
Well, there's a hope of that. But, much like my music, I'm going to keep making music. I'm not going to ever stop making music until like maybe the day my fingers don't work or something. Then I might figure something out after that.
Whistling, yeah.
Like I don't know how I'll play synths, but I'll figure it out.
I'm a pretty good whistler. My family thinks I should go be in a contest. So
just creepily call people to whistle.
Yeah,
that's what you should do.
I would hate to not be able to play the guitar anymore. I hope I'm able to do that till the day I die. But Les Paul, he couldn't play the guitar. Or Eric Clapton's having problems playing the guitar.
Yeah,
now.
He is.
So, man, that's got to be rough, man.
Neil Peart.
Is he having issues?
They've announced retirement.
Oh, really?
Because Neil can't drum.
Wow.
He can't play 3 hours at a stretch. He's developed hard arthritis in his shoulders.
Wow.
After years of playing.
Yeah.
And it happens. And what do you do when that happens? How do you redefine yourself? And I think that's
he's an excellent writer. So
I think that's what people are dealing with right now is the fact that they do. Hell, I'm just as shocked that the election result came out the way it did. You were on the show early in the show. You've been on the show in the middle of the show. I was never a Trumper. And
most
never once did I think that he would be the one that would win it.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be close.
Not till the night of the election, where it was like, holy crap!
But
dude.
I got to tell you, man. I mean, the thing is Hillary Clinton has. I know she's heard my voice.
Oh yeah.
She's heard my reports, and so has Obama, and so has Trump. But it's a good thing that Trump has. Hopefully it's a good thing that Obama did too, because maybe I kept him in line a little bit. But the fact that Hillary could have had all that power and she was coming right for journalism. As soon as she got in, she was coming after us, man. She was probably going to put a bunch of us in jail. And I was on a short list, maybe not near the top, but I'm sure, they're going to pull me out of that hat. And so I was worried about that.
Oh, yeah.
Say the least. Not to mention what was about to happen to our country. I mean, everything that Obama had quietly passed by with his charm and his smile and, first black president and all that. It's amazing just how well he lied to everybody. I've done these reports where it's just lie upon lie. Like he's saying he did this and then he actually did the opposite.
Yeah.
And Hillary was going to come in and she was just going to make everything, every regulation, every executive order, everything that he had done, just a part of, part of the socialist nightmare that we were all about to be a part of right now.
And here's my take, and I've told this to my wife numerous times, and I've considered starting a breakfast episode of Dudes and Beer. Because whenever me and my wife sit around in the mornings and cook breakfast and talk, we get into some pretty deep discussion for an hour or so. And I keep thinking, like, this is some gold content. Like, this is just great.
Dudes and orange juice.
Like eggs and beer.
Yeah. Eggs and beer.
Eggs and beer.
Sounds great. Anything with beer. Bacon and beer.
I'm the only one drinking that early because my wife's pregnant, of course.
You need to just keep
Well, I
drinking.
mean, I made her stop drinking at the third trimester, where she liked it or not.
Well, you're drinking for her.
That's right. I'm drinking for 3 right now.
You're drinking for 3.
But no, going into the whole cognitive dissonance thing and stuff like that, one of the concepts that I was telling my wife was, all these executive orders that people are like, oh my God, this is outlandish, this is crazy. But the thing is, it's stuff that he promised people. And has anybody thought the fact that Trump knows it won't go through, but he'll be damned if he's the one that's not going to uphold his promise?
Well, he's like a bull elephant running through the jungle right now. I mean, he's unstoppable. But he's just. But the thing is, it's all stuff that he said he would do. So at the very least, he's going to put it out there, and whether or not the House and Congress strikes it down, what have you, that's the letter of the law, and they're allowed to do so. Well, when Schumer gets up there and starts crying.
But the concept, concept of this is what I said I will do and I will keep my word, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And at the very least, you got to hand that to him.
You could end up like this guy in Arizona who was stabbed by his girlfriend because he refused to be involved in a threesome.
Yeah.
You gotta. If you're gonna promise something, you better come through with it.
You better deliver. You better deliver.
Yeah.
That's just it.
And saying, putting deliverance next to Trump's name is probably not the best thing to do, but because you get the banjos in your ears, but but he is delivering. But there's a whole slew of people that will hear this. And they will be on one side or the other because things are so divided, and it's really not Trump's fault. It's this climate.
Oh yeah,
that he stepped into.
It's the one political climate that we built in America.
Yeah, it's a sociological climate that has divided us, and this whole new generation that's come of age and just bought into the whole madness. Not all of them, but I've spoken to plenty of millennials too who are just completely embarrassed about their generation.
Oh, absolutely.
And to some degree, people at that age,
John,
each generation is pretty similar, but it seems the divide and the cognitive dissonance seems to be getting worse.
I've been on campus shooting B-roll. Whenever they were doing the Cox Not Glocks protest at UT, I went up and shot B-roll and stuff like that and tried to get interviews with students. And the ones that I got were like, oh my God, like you can barely even string a thought together. And there was one person that I got, that I asked questions and he answered them and stuff like that. And they were horribly, horribly thought out. And at the end of it, I was just talking with him, and I was like, yeah, what are you studying? And he was like, yeah, I'm an RTF student for news.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? And you can't, logically answer a question?
Well, and the way that mainstream media works, that's the kind of guy that they were looking for,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But all that's changing now, I sure hope. I heard today that Jerome Corsi is going to be the Washington bureau chief. Did you hear that?
For the White House?
For InfoWars, yeah, he's going to be in the White House. We're going to find out tomorrow or at least late next week whether or not he got credentials. But it sounded good.
Well, and I will say this: I love the fact that Trump is opening the press corps and allowing bloggers in, allowing that kind of stuff. I think it lends some legitimacy and some credibility where things belong. Just because somebody doesn't work for the New York Times doesn't mean that they aren't uncovering good information. Look at all the stuff done by Project Veritas, things like that.
Big time.
That has been shown to be there, has been said to be there, and then it's proven to be there by video and through investigative journalism that's done by a private person.
Well, they've
not
gone to the mainstream
with any
media.
Kind of mainstream media, exactly.
Well, they own these power centers. Washington D.C. being one of. So if you'd be laughed out of there during Obama, if you wanted from an alternative media organization, and now the fact that those power centers are being opened up, and hopefully opened up in London, New York, just all the places where the mainstream media dwells and owns the front seats to whatever talking points are the most important. Now there's going to be this very awkward voice coming from the back, or who knows, maybe from the front, saying, I'm with Breitbart. I think Breitbart's in there already. I'm with the vigilant citizen. I'm with on and on and on. There's so many alternative media sources out there that deserve to be there. At least, and he's also allowing Skype. There's going to be a few Skype-ins.
Oh, really? I didn't hear
there's going to be. Yeah, there's going to be. And then there was talk of possibly moving it to a larger room. So. Yeah.
I did hear them saying that they were supposed to be moving the press corps to another area.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had that most definitely.
I don't think they've done that yet, but Gateway Pundit. There's another source that needs to be recognized. And that guy's been on Drudge just repeatedly. Yeah. There's a bunch of them. But,
Well, even Drudge, not that he does a whole lot of reporting anymore. Yeah. He's really more of a news aggregate. But, people dismiss him. And it's like, hey, you got to understand some of the things he's broken.
Well,
reporting.
He broke Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, and they almost broke him
Bill
for breaking
broke Monica Lewinsky, but Drudge broke the news on it.
Yeah.
So that's all about to change. It's very exciting, and to think that that Drudge was being told by, I think was a Supreme Court justice, somebody real high level was saying, you guys are done next year.
Yeah.
your heads are on the chopping block. We're taking
Yep.
out Drudge. We're taking out InfoWars.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
and I mean, I remember that in private conversations between us, just the utter concern with things, and not even hysterical concern. We've covered it on the show, the concept of the FCC stepping into newsrooms, the concept of them being able to throttle information coming from certain websites. You know?
Well, now even Nigel Farage has a radio show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing is freedom of the press, the First Amendment. It's really, it's like when Darth Vader, you know, Obi-Wan says to Darth Vader, "You strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you ever imagined."
Sure.
And they tried to do it, and the force, which is the silent majority in America, responded, and here we are.
Well,
you know, and I'm not saying things are perfect with Trump.
No.
They're never going to be.
They're never going to be perfect. It's life, people.
Sure.
And like I said earlier, you know,
but I don't think he's lying to us.
There's a means by you know.
That.
I'll tell you this: I think they all lie to us. Every damn one of them.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
But you know what? He hasn't needed to lie yet. And that's the thing. He's still on a roll. He's still going through his campaign promises. He's still it's still pretty innocent, and it doesn't seem like, you know, he was corrupted by a different system.
Oh yeah, most definitely. He was corrupted by the American capitalist straight up, like everything Russia was against in the 1970s system.
Well, you're talking about a guy that, you know, lived through the Sopranos, you know?
Yeah.
And those guys are a lot tougher than any politician.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
They're not ass kissers. They will kick their ass kickers. So I would rather take the person that's had that experience and with his business experience and talking tough, when things for the long run that need to be done. And he's got 4 short years to get them done. If he keeps going at the pace he's going, the angrier the liberals get, the angrier the left gets, the more confused everyone gets. It seems like the more he's actually doing his job.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, one of the things I brought up with Amy the other day was, you know, how everybody's afraid of going to war and stuff like that. I'm like, because of the things he said and the policies he's put out there. And I'm like, has anybody considered the fact that one of his campaign promises was to utterly get rid of ISIS? Which, of course, you know, hey, quit funding them. We'll get rid of them real quick.
Quit supplying them with the arms that Benghazi, everything that was funneled out of Benghazi.
Yeah, get the CIA out of Syria, and I guarantee you that a lot of shit will stop. But I was like, one of the things he said in debate all the time was, you people tell them your military strategy on the news and then wonder why they figure it out. And it's like, you know, call me crazy, but kind of wily like a fox to put these insane things out there and make the people that you're trying to utterly obliterate and get rid of, and make them think like, I don't care what laws are. I don't care what the Geneva Convention says. You know, like all the stuff he said recently about torture. That's where I'm going with this.
Right.
Because he basically came out and said, "Yeah, I believe in torture. I think it works."
But I'm gonna leave it up to Mad Dog Mattis, who's got more experience than me. But yeah, I disagree with it. I disagree with him.
He was like, "But if you ask me, yeah, torture him." You know?
Yeah.
And really, that just puts the message out there of, holy shit, the American president is perfectly willing to torture people.
And then the Democrats are saying, well, he's ISIS's best cheerleader. He's the one that's going to create these lone wolves.
Well, no, the thing is, Like, if you
No.
say something like that,
Could you imagine if this was World War II and we're basically in a very similar situation, and the leaders and the Democrats back then were saying, well, he needs to stop talking about the Nazis because he's creating Nazis here in America. No, we need to go kill the Nazis.
yeah. Yeah. And, really, it's one of those, like, whenever you say something like that, what if you actually completely believe the opposite and you're really just putting it out there as a piece of disinformation in order to bait the enemy and make them think the fact that, hey, this dude's crazy. He'll do anything.
Yeah. There's a lot of baiting going on, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Here in the past year. It's
all over the place, dude. It's so thick. It's so thick. It's all over the place.
I've got involved in I won't go into it, but yeah, it's out there and you got to be aware of it. There's a lot of false information. Things have to be fact checked over and over again. Sources have to be checked.
Yeah.
Especially the level we're reaching here, because the mainstream media, geez, man, all the fake news they've been putting out is just embarrassing,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, they point the finger at us for getting something wrong, and then they'll turn around and say that, that completely made up story about the grid being hacked in Vermont.
Yeah.
Completely made up.
Yep.
They ran with, or the MLK bust, the other day. Completely made up. Just the guy's like, MLK bust is gone. Big story, let's start tweeting it. And it took him like an hour and a half to figure out that it was still there. Because I saw the tweets. First tweet goes out, and it's like an hour and a half later. Oh, yeah, we checked. The bust was there. Well, our bad. It's like this guy was with ABC or CBS,
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's just like we were saying earlier with the statements by Madonna. It blew my mind to see that Wolf Blitzer did a special on what would happen if the president and vice president were both assassinated.
Yeah.
Like,
unbelievable.
What the hell is that? How is that possibly viable news?
Well, and how is that not seditious?
Yes, exactly.
How is it not seditious? And then during Trump's first interview, they had a preview for a show about killing the president.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get it. They're trying to get it into everybody's mind out there, and some nut job, some idiot out there is going to try it.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it was, it's interesting when we get through this whole thing, and I really hope that it is bizarre that Donald Trump is our president. It really is. He was the host of The Apprentice. He was he's been a billionaire casino hotel chain.
Here's the thing.
Don.
We've had billionaires that are presidents before, and we've had famous people that are presidents before.
Sure. We've never had both.
We've never had one that's both at the same time.
Both. Yeah, and I had my reservations. Everybody did, but the thing is I'm gonna. This is my president now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, regardless, until something hits me where I'm like, whoa, no, wrong move.
Well, and that's just it. Like, I don't care what
be
party the president comes from.
100% because he is my president.
Yeah.
And regardless of these people out in the street calling him a Nazi and a fascist, he's their president too. And
no different than the people that... No different than the people that called Obama a fascist.
Yeah.
No different than the people that were in panic mode when Obama started restricting what ammunition could be bought and in what quantity.
Right. Well, I you know what? You made me realize that. But the thing is I voted for Obama in 2008.
I know a lot of people that did.
I felt so completely fooled by him when I started finding out, and then for me, the nail in the coffin was the NDAA when I found out that he could come and kill basically any American, anybody without due process, and I found out that was for real. I couldn't, and then the way that he did it, when he said he was against that being in the NDAA.
Dude, the last NDAA that he signed just before he went out for 2017, literally
he signs it in the middle of the night on New Year's.
Signs it in the middle of the night.
Sneaky rat, man.
And what does it allow? It allows
focusing in on everything, just lies.
Well,
and say something, it was the total opposite of what he was saying.
Well, and the new NDAA literally sets up for the fact that they can fund an office of anti-propaganda.
Oh, yeah, the 2013. Yeah, the Smith-Mundt. I've been failing on
2013, Smith-Mundt was struck down, but the NDAA 2017 that Obama signed as he went out set up to be
the
able
Ministry of Truth.
Well, it let them be able to set up an office of anti-propaganda to be able to allow, NGOs and stuff like that to produce this stuff. And it's like, great. So now we'll have government-made propaganda going out to the American public.
Going back to the example that you just brought up, that was a really good example. The fact that CNN came up with that, what if Trump was killed and the vice president was killed right now? And who would be appointed? Well, it wouldn't be Obama. Obama would appoint this person, and the fact that they were allowed to do that is because Smith-Mundt Act is gone. Yeah. And NDAA Obama had signed says, you can make stuff like this.
Sure can.
And you won't go, it won't be sedition. It's legal.
That's right.
So, it's unbelievable, the criminality that is sitting on the books right now, and I mean, anybody with any reasonable, whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent, I just think Trump is just an American, just like the rest of us. It's like there's this video, this guy's in his front yard, and this squirrely little cop comes up, and the guy's just filming him, and he's standing in his front yard, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, gonna film me, are you?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, I'm standing in my front yard. This is my private property." And the guy starts putting his hand on his gun, the cop.
Right.
And the guy goes, "Really? You remember that video?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Really? You're going to put your hand on your gun now?" And he's like, "What are you, some kind of constitutionalist?" Talk about cognitive dissonance. The guy put his hand on the Bible and swore an oath to the Constitution when he took
protect the Constitution.
Yeah, and and that's the thing. That's what we're experiencing right now. We don't have a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. We've got an American in office right now, and until and the only thing I will say about the Muslim ban is
it's
that
not a Muslim ban.
It doesn't. Well, and that's a dirty term for it. What
it's
it is,
a horrible misnomer.
It was
a huge oversimplification.
109 people were temporarily detained, and when they spoke with people that were detained, they were like, "Oh yes, they were very nice. It was just an interview. Everything went smoothly." Out of, I think, 350,000 people, 109 people were detained.
Despite that, it's not just a ban on Muslims.
It's not.
It's a ban on everybody from Muslim countries. These 7 countries tend to be predominantly Muslim.
It's from terror sponsoring countries. Now, the big argument, of course, is where's Saudi Arabia? Where's Afghanistan? Where's Pakistan?
Absolutely.
Is Qatar one of those countries? Because Qatar is a big time sponsor.
Oh yeah.
Let me look that up real quick, but yeah, Saudi Arabia.
It's not on the list. There's only a list of 7.
Right, and the thing about the countries that were banned were the ones that were recommended by the Obama administration and Congress, and so he was just enforcing that.
Not just recommended, but used. Used.
Yeah. Yemen, which, the thing about it, if you're going to ban Yemen, you need to ban Saudi Arabia, and we need to start talking about what Saudi Arabia is doing to Yemen.
You do, and I don't disagree with that. I'm a big proponent of that.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that.
See if I can get it. Okay, we got Iraq, Iran, Syria, Yemen, Sudan, Libya, and Somalia. Okay, yeah, Qatar's not on there either.
Yeah.
So Saudi Arabia and Qatar are huge sponsors. Of course, everyone knows.
Sure.
They look at the map and they show the ones that are banned, terror sponsoring countries that are banned. They have zero. They've killed 0 people, according to. I think that's kind of sketchy, but for the most part, it's a very low number from all these countries as far as terrorists killing people in the United States. Now, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, you can blame everybody that died in the World Trade Center on them because, after the 9/11 Commission report, the 28 pages were released, even though they're heavily redacted. It's very, very clear that there's a chain of command that is funneling money through all of these groups that supported the
well, not just that, but the first World Trade Center bombing that just took out part of the where the FBI introduced the 2 guys were both Saudi as well.
Right.
The one that took out the parking garage.
Right. Yep. The earlier one. Yep.
Yeah.
And then Qatar is a huge sponsor. So yeah, when I saw that, but
so yeah, I mean it doesn't even cover all of them. It covers the major ones. It covers the ones that we know support these groups.
Well, Saudi Arabia is a friggin' joke, man.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, I'm not going to lie about that. I'm not going to say that they're a great thing or they're fantastic.
Out of all the countries over there, they are the worst. And it wouldn't have been a hornet's nest if we didn't go over there, support them, create them, and then used our CIA and Brzezinski's Eurasia plan.
Yeah.
On the grand chessboard to basically take over, mineral rights, oil rights, everything we could to go over there and basically plunder.
The whole strategy that's been used in the Middle East to begin with.
China plunders Africa.
Yeah.
It's like, so we're going to plunder Eurasia and you plunder Africa. Yeah. And now we've met in the middle and things are getting really tense with China, but I heard somebody say the other day that China has only one aircraft carrier. Is that right?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, dude. Those people are like, those people are freaking surveying the moon right now. They gotta have more than one aircraft carrier.
They would be shitting out aircraft carriers, man.
Come on.
No, it was wrong.
And hey, I'll admit, I'm the biggest purchaser of shit from Xinjiang, China.
We all are. We're surrounded by it.
Oh, no, like the small parts electronics that I buy as far as resistors, capacitors, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it's all coming from there.
Yeah. I just got a Traveler guitar for Christmas. It's made in China. It's a great guitar.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I guess to me, the whole concept of cognitive dissonance is exactly what's going on right now. It's just people can't seem to accept what has happened. And I'm not going to say that there are great things abounding.
Well, and it's also a lack of knowledge, too, because when you do start reading the Constitution and you do start reading about our immigration laws and the fact that we take in 1 million refugees in this country every year, which is a huge amount anyway, and then you've got all of the people that have come in here legally, and it's not a problem. And then everyone wants to ignore what's happening in Europe. what happened at Nice, what happened in Paris.
Yeah.
We've had San Bernardino. We just had Fort Lauderdale shooting.
Not just that, man.
We had
but
Ohio. We've already had a smattering, a taste of what they've gotten in Europe. We don't want that here. We have national security for a reason.
Yeah.
And so it's not racism and sexism and he's Hitler and he hates Muslims and all. No. When you sit down, take a deep breath and think about it, we're a country with immigration laws. We are facing a new threat that could potentially come in here and organize and do the same things that are happening right now as we speak.
Well, I mean, here's a prime example. And let's see how many were brought in, just to give us a number here. I'm trying to just scan some numbers inside of this, but oh God, I hate autoplay videos inside of an article.
Today, a good example is while you look for that.
Well, no, I found it right here. And this is Breitbart. This came out in October 2016, so just before the election. 296 refugees diagnosed with active TB in Minnesota.
Yeah.
10 times any other state, and the majority are Somalis.
Right. Yeah, and there's a huge the disease that's coming across our border because it's being allowed to come across that, and that's just the common sense part of immigration law, and making sure that you're checked out and you've been checked by a doctor, and now you can come to this country and you won't spread the diseases we eradicated 60 years ago.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
There's another threat that's being is the kissing bug, Chagas disease.
Okay.
And A&M and UT are doing a study on this, and I'm going to be doing a report on this soon.
All right.
But what the kissing bugs do is they attach themselves to clothes and just livestock and anything that's moving, and they kind of hitch a ride. And so you've got all of this mass of people moving through Mexico and South America, and they're carrying this kissing bug with them. And this thing, when you get bit by a kissing bug, it's a painful death that takes something like 20 to 30 years of your life.
Holy shit, what?
It's horrible.
What the hell are you talking about?
And they've already discovered, A&M discovered that, they're found through the Americas, and they have been documented in the U.S., and they found them now in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona.
Yeah, I see that.
They've been increasing.
There's Texas A&M.
So
also known as the assassin beetle. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It transmits this parasite to the host and defecates near that site of the bite, and then bugs, and then it enters your bloodstream, and your organs, and you barely feel it. You wouldn't really even notice if it bit you.
Yeah.
And there's no cure for it.
Kissing bugs rely on blood meals to grow and develop. Their bite must go relatively unnoticed by their blood meal sources. Most individuals report that kissing bug bites did not hurt.
Yeah, you feel fever, fatigue, body aching, and you'll think that it's something else.
Huh.
But gradually, your intestines, your heart enlarges, your heart rate changes, and you go into cardiac arrest, and it's just a gradual death.
Yeah, the parasite causes Chagas disease in humans, dogs, and mammals. In humans, Chagas manifests in two phases: acute phase and chronic. After becoming infected with the parasite, the acute phase can last for a few weeks or months This phase can be symptom-free or difficult to diagnose because the symptoms are common for many types of sickness, including fever, fatigue, body aches, headache, rash, loss of appetite, diarrhea, or vomiting. Of those who are infected with the parasite, approximately 30% are at risk of developing chronic Chagas disease. Chronic Chagas includes cardiac complications or intestinal complications, and these signs may not be apparent until decades after the initial infection. Holy shit!
Yeah. Well,
Cardiac signs include enlarged heart failure, altered heart rate, and/or cardiac arrest. Intestinal signs include enlarged esophagus, colon.
Yeah,
wow.
I don't want to cause panic though. I mean, it's you can still be bitten, and it's actually one case of Chagas for every 900 to 4,000 contacts will cause the disease. So
wow.
But there has been an increase in the percentage of people in the valley that have come down with Chagas disease, and
wow.
Yeah, they kind of look similar. Their wings look similar to a cockroach, but they've got kind of an ant-looking body.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a typical beetle-looking.
Yeah.
It looks very, very akin to an aphid, something like that, but it's got a long snout. It's crossbar
being brought up from the Americas into all of our southern states, and it's going to affect livestock. And then, you've got TB. You've even got leprosy.
Yeah.
And then there's the possibility of of Black Plague. Being spread. And there was a Black Plague. There was a isolated incident out in Colorado a couple of years ago. You remember that?
Actually, that was California.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there were squirrels in the public park.
Too. Yeah,
squirrels in the public park that were spreading plague. I do remember that.
Yeah, and that's why our borders need to be protected. It's not. Yeah. It's not a free for all where everyone just run to the top of the hill.
Well, that's just it. Like, good God, I had to get a TB inoculation to go be a substitute teacher.
Well, no one said that people shouldn't be allowed to come here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're a Muslim, you can't come here. Of course you can come here. If you worship, planet Venus, and some people do.
Thank you.
You can come here,
Sure you can.
We have freedom of religion. By the way, the crescent moon tonight had Venus and Mars. Venus right next to it, Mars above it, and then directly below that was Neptune.
Yeah.
Really cool.
It was beautiful.
But, no one said anything about a Muslim ban.
Yeah.
You're talking about a terror country ban.
Exactly.
And the thing is that,
take it for a minute, John. Go ahead.
Well, a big point is that a lot of those people that are going to cause terror have actually been here for a long time. They're already very peaceful Muslim groups that keep to themselves, that have nothing to do with terror in this country. But then, there are a few cells in this country, and the FBI, hopefully now, and CIA, hopefully now, will be doing their job to keep an eye on them and investigate them. But
how's that been going?
Well, I mean, the FBI has been compromised.
They've been compromised for years, man. Like I said, the first Trade Center bombing, they introduced the two bombers.
Yeah, they did.
They were informants on independent cases in different friggin' states that were introduced to each other and came up with this plot and initiated it.
Well, and the shoe bomber. I mean, that guy was a complete.
Oh, he was a total plant.
Yeah, but the reason I think Trump must have an ulterior motive in keeping James Comey. He's not going to let him off the hook or something, because he's going to continue to have him there. And James Comey, I don't know if most people know. The guy looks like he's a hardened, experienced FBI agent who rose through the ranks. The guy was never an FBI agent. He worked right alongside the Clinton Foundation, and he worked for Bank of America when they were dealing with, and he oversaw the department that dealt with the money laundering scandal.
Yeah, the dealt with fraud and stuff like that.
Yeah, with the cartels. And and then he was installed as the FBI director, and and has played that role, but in reality he's worked behind, he's just a lawyer who's worked behind the scenes for a long time for the wrong people. So I don't know. It's interesting that Trump's going to keep him there. It's interesting what he did to Romney. Remember how he was going to put Romney in his cabinet?
Yep.
After Romney had just publicly sliced and diced him. It was like he was getting his revenge. Like, how about I give you a cabinet position?
Yeah.
Psych, Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But, maybe he's trying to establish confidence again in the FBI and the CIA. I sure hope so. The CIA is a mess, man. With Brennan,
it's a hot mess.
Talk about another, with Brennan being the head of the CIA, the guy is he's Sharia law Muslim. He's indoctrinated into that from all of his time over in the Middle East. And so he's been following the roadmap that's been put in front of him, the Brzezinski-Kissinger roadmap.
Yeah.
That's another name as Kissinger that worries me, because he's always got his finger on the button, on the pulse. Yeah. And it doesn't. Sure had a lot of meetings with Trump. Maybe Trump was trying to feel him out and to see what the guy was going to try to bring to the table and pull over his eyes. But who knows?
I've worked with Henry Kissinger. I've actually been backstage with Henry Kissinger.
Really? Did he try to rape you?
No, he didn't try to rape me at all. And I'm a damn good-looking man.
You didn't. I have a tent.
No, he was actually. We had a great conversation about economy and oil stuff like that was going on. But I mean, it's interesting.
You say, "What's up? Hey, what's up, war criminal?"
Because I think so many of these people and us ourselves, unfortunately, live up to that dichotomy of Hillary Clinton, where she said publicly that there is no problem having a public face on one thing and having a personal stance on the other.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't reconcile myself with that.
No.
I can't reconcile myself with that. And unfortunately, I think there are so many people who are
break it down. It's okay to be two-faced.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it means.
Wouldn't you be two-faced then? Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that's why you're two-faced.
Yeah, I mean, if it behooves everybody for me to think this and say this, then that's what I'm going to say, but that's not what I really think.
Yeah. I'm going to tell the people this.
Once again, taken out of context, right?
In a room. Hopefully nobody will be recording this, although they always are.
Yeah. Taken out of context.
There are a bunch of deplorable idiots out there, jack-offs, just out there just roaming around.
And quite honestly, I think
driving their little $12,000 cars.
I honestly think that statement, the day that she said that and that came out,
you think that
was it? That was the unraveling point. And she had at that point, that's when you saw her stop campaigning.
Yeah.
Everything else. You know, that was the point at which it was like, you know, man, you just came out and you just came out and said that you don't give a shit about half the country.
That was like an alarm going off.
Yeah, dude,
I can't remember when I first
like
was disgusted by her.
You just launched a flare into the fucking air.
Yeah.
And then asked where the light came from.
Yeah. In a pile of shit.
You know?
Lit it up.
That was like, holy crap, did you literally, even behind closed doors right now, on any kind of open line or communication,
I've always despised her.
A deplorable basket of idiots.
I guess Benghazi was when I really started getting concerned. You know, when she banged her little fists on the table, said, "What difference does it make?" You know, it just didn't seem normal to me.
Well, we both saw. You know, it's interesting, John, because I was reminded by the booking of the face the other day on Facebook. That it's right at 3 years ago that we met.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I posted a thing up. I didn't repost it or anything, but I had apparently posted a thing, and it was like, hey, 3 years ago this happened. And it was like, hey, you know, I have an interview coming up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so,
I hired you.
I know. And, you know, it was just... Yeah, like we saw some things go down media wise. We saw some crazy shit happen, man. Like I remember being on air with Richard Belzer when the Boston bombing
during
happened.
Boston, yeah.
Like when it happened, like coming over the comm, like
Sandy Hook. Were you there during Sandy Hook?
Right at the tail end.
Yeah, Sandy Hook. I mean, just total craziness. Every week was something different. Yeah. And you never knew what angle it was coming from. Yeah. And it's just like it burned itself out. You know, but we just had this Quebec shooting, and now they're saying this guy was a Trump supporter and all that. So I mean, that could be another MK Ultra thing, and man,
sure, if he's a Trump supporter that went crazy in Quebec.
And it's kind of a default for us to go to the MK Ultra thing, but it sure does end up that way after there's enough research done. Of course, you know, it's like they, you know, 2 + 2 is 5. You know, they put in these MK Ultra victims.
And hey, to bring it back full circle, man, that's one of the concepts that MK Ultra used all the time, was the concept of cognitive dissonance to break somebody.
Right. Yep. Now they've broken an entire generation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and found a way to break them.
Yeah. You know, that's an astounding thought.
It is.
And they haven't all been swept up, so there's going to be a schism within that generation too. There's, even if it's a minority of millennials that have common sense, that aren't, you know, overburdened with cognitive dissonance, that have independent thought, even if it's a small minority, they will eventually overtake the majority. Because
and
what are they
quite
fighting?
honestly, I don't think that we give, and this is just me, as a former teacher, as a former youth minister, as a former person who, as far as, like, I love Gerald Celente because he's all about trends. And when it comes to humanity, there is a trend. You know, and what will happen is these kids will hit their mid-30s, and the point of cognitive dissonance will end, and reality will sink in.
It always does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, we all had cognitive dissonance. That's what our rebellion of our 20s is about. You know, that's when we find out that there's something other than what our parents taught us, and something other than what college taught us.
Right.
You know, and that the whole dream is really just a waking dream, and did it really happen? You know,
Right. But you know, a lot of the people, a lot of the SJWs that you see out there, it's a mixture of generations.
Yeah.
You also see baby boomers out there too.
Oh,
and
you
Generation
do,
Xers
absolutely.
too. And it's just like, wow, you're still trying to figure this out. You know, I mean,
Like I said, I am a
real
hippie
simple.
at heart,
Yeah.
but I'm a realist. And I'm
Well,
also
whatever's
very
right.
much a constitutionalist and
Well,
you know.
when you're using the Bill of Rights to subvert the Bill of Rights, or you're using a statement like Black Lives Matter to actually subvert the fact that Black Lives Matter, like,
well, the prime example over the last couple days was the picture that came out from a Travis County courthouse of a judge wearing the anti-Trump knitted cap on the bench.
Yeah.
You know, and I
It's
posted
amazing.
that up in the Dudes and Beer group for discussion and opened the discussion, and I wish more people would discuss that stuff. But openly,
it's amazing.
What do you
the
think?
levels.
Like, to me, I'm sorry, you've just put your personal political point of view on display on the bench of justice, and that's supposed to be blind to political point of view.
Yep. I mean, you just hand it in, walk out, turn in your robe, you're done. Set your gavel down.
I saw a friend of mine's comment. Shout out to you, Terry Williams II, up in Maine. He was literally like, "Yeah, she should be disbarred," like straight up.
Well, and they believe that they're supporting some righteous cause, when in reality they're basing all of their facts on half truths. You know, well, okay, so why are you wearing this? Well, because he's a misogynist and a Nazi and a fascist, and he's going to take America down. It's like, well, you had me at misogynist. Can we just stick with, but it just keeps going, and he's going to, we're all going to die. And, it's funny how the shoe's on the other foot now, as you said, 3 years ago, I was buying supplies. I was getting ready for whatever the hell is going to have to go down. Yeah. Yep.
This is a library.
Oh, sorry.
Keep it down, bro. No, but seriously, like you were just saying, 3 years ago, you had had a situation of this mentality.
Yeah, and now the left is doing it, and now the liberals are doing it.
Yeah,
it's weird to call them the left or liberals. I mean, I guess the left is a good name, but a real liberal is actually what I am. What you are. Would anybody with any rational ability to have an intellectual debate or discussion, it's even better than a debate, is a discussion.
Yeah.
Especially when you speak with people that are, and to disrespect your elders, that's a sure sign that you're not open to more knowledge, because you would be surprised if you sit down with somebody right now that's 70 years old. You would be blown away with everything they could tell you about their life, and all of the questions as a millennial that you have about what's in front of you. They could square you up with, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to approach your life. Instead, it's this complete disrespect for anything that has any ideologue outside of the small-brained trap that they're stuck in, and it's sad, but I don't think that this country will ever divide completely. We'll never see a civil war again.
No.
Yeah. We've got lunatics out there. They're the minority, but I know, just right across the entire spectrum. I mean, it's one thing to talk black and white, but It's so much larger than that. This is America. There's so many different people. There's so many varieties, so many mutts. I'm a mutt.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many varieties of Americans. There's so many people that can share their culture with you. Even a Muslim culture can be an interesting thing. Just as interesting as Chinese culture, just as interesting as Vietnamese, Black culture, Irish culture. That's what we're all about. But at the end of the day, none of us wants to get blown up.
Yeah.
While we're walking to work, or shot while we're sitting drinking coffee. Whether you're a liberal, leftist, or a right-wing Republican, or an independent, I'd say just about probably 100% of the time nobody wants to be shot while they're walking through the mall, or blown up while they're on the bus.
I'm against it.
Yeah, I think most people are. I would hope, but maybe one day they'll take it so far they'll have signs out there with I protect my right to be blown up.
Well, and it's kind of like to me, it's like the trend that was there about 3 years ago, whenever we met, of people putting signs out in their yard that was like, "This is a gun-free home." It's like, what? Why don't you just put a big old sign like Target that says, "Come rob me now"?
Doors open.
Yeah. Like, I have ADT. They might get here in 30 minutes. Come on in. Like, I don't know. And maybe it's because I actually have in my life had the instance where people broke into my grandparents' home while they were asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my grandmother was raped.
That's
when she was my grandmother.
Yeah.
So I would have been nice if she had a Colt 45 sitting there,
or a means by which to defend herself. Sure.
Well, that's 2 hours, and apparently the air conditioning outside is about to explode.
Oh my God! Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why?
We've had some issues with our air conditioning.
Oh no.
Yeah. So.
Fortunately, it's the right time of year in Texas to have air conditioning issues.
It is. That's true. But we spoil ourselves, even though it's like 46 degrees outside.
I will say I do the same thing. I probably keep my house at a constant like 68, 69 year round.
Yeah. I mean, we're just climate junkies here in Texas.
Well, I mean, my opinion is, fuck it, dude, and I'm gonna die like the dinosaurs.
Yeah, eventually, when the oil runs out.
Till something takes me out,
Right.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do.
Like an exploding air conditioning.
Cognitive dissonance or not. And I don't know. I guess, to me, I don't think, much like we were saying earlier about the executive that did the video, and look it up, folks. Just go and Google, executive tells millennials to buy an alarm clock.
Yeah, I looked it up, and I couldn't find it.
It's about 10 minutes long.
Okay.
Something like that. And hold on, I'll Google it and I'll find it real quick.
I did those search results there, but they don't work for me. But yes, it is a dark shadow entering the minds of our youth.
Yeah.
There's a Fishbone song called "Fight the Youth," youth with poisoned minds. Ignite the truth.
Okay, I literally just went to Google Jon Bowne. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I've never been good at the Google.
And I'm telling you right now, I've had about 7 or 8 beers during this show.
Wow.
I literally went to Google, typed in "executive tells millennials to buy an alarm clock," and right here, first thing that pops up on Google is shot clock alarm clock. What it's like, Fortune.com. We tested out an alarm clock that came to Tim Cook. Is that it? No. I don't think that's it.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that stuff.
No. That's
And I didn't have any. I ran out of beer. So, and I feel guilty if I don't drink some kind of alcohol when I'm on the show. So I've been drinking rubbing alcohol. So I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I got nothing.
Dang.
Yeah. And that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to find that link. Got what's it like to be an old millennial?
Yeah.
I recently realized that I'm an old millennial. I don't know why it's Irish.
Yeah.
6 best alarm clocks of 2016. That's the top of the list. Well, this seems like a good point to drop the hammer.
Well, and it's interesting because, dang it, I will find it. I know I used it in an episode before, a clip of it.
We'll all be waiting in suspense for the next time I come on. Please save it for me.
Well, no, I'll find it and I'll send it to you, absolutely, because you know me, I am prodigious with that. I will absolutely find that clip. And on that note, folks, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Please make sure to stop on by and get the new app. It's available for both iPhone and Android, Jon Bowne. Tell everybody where they can go for your info, Jon Bowne.
You can go to dailynewscollective.com and blablahshow.com. And of course, you can find my reports online as well.
That's right. If you can't be good at it.
Thanks for listening
to
this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams and chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for both Android and iDevices, available on the Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody. And until next time, drink responsibly.